Hi, hello, namaste, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Logistics Pe Charcha. I am Prajakta, editor of Logistics Outlook magazine, and today we have with us Mr. Rohan Dixit. He is the director, business development, Clearship Group. Welcome, Rohan, to our studio.
Thank you, Prajakta. Thank you, Logistics Outlook, for having me. Pleased to be here.
Really curious to understand what is driving the next generation, second generation to come to this industry. Especially, it's been a very unorganized sector, and we are seeing more of the young generation getting into it. What is actually driving you into this industry, and about Clearship, if you could tell us something?
We'll talk about Clearship first, and then my little bit of my journey. Clearship is a 55-year-old family-owned business. Started in 1970 by my late grandfather and my late uncle. My uncle was in the Navy, and he took a voluntary retirement at the age of 30, and my grandfather and one of my other uncles, they were working in a CHA firm, so they said we should start something, and they always wanted to be making a difference in the industry. At that time, we're talking about times before even the telephone, right? So you're doing a lot of paperwork, and being from the Navy, my uncle was very clear about making things right, getting the right systems in place, making it very disciplined. So the idea was to give customers transparent information. And I've never had the privilege of working with him, but he always said that every cargo is perishable, be it a wooden box, be it leather shoes, be it garments, be it fruits. So every cargo has to be considered and handled as though it is perishable, so that you always have a time. And everybody's talking about speed now, but this has always been the case. Absolutely. So I think it was just about adding more value. They saw a gap in the market. They saw that things were very unorganized even then. Now, if you might say it's still unorganized, but back then there was a lot of value that they could add. And that's why they started this.
Okay.
For the next generation, I first joined this business in 2009. I was doing something in IT, found it incredibly boring, went overseas to study, came back because at that time I felt the business needed me. There was definitely work that I could do to improve the business. And I was fortunate enough to navigate pre-COVID and post-COVID. So we've seen the very low times pre-COVID, yes. We've seen the boom post-COVID. And what happened in COVID is the digital revolution took place. Everybody is online. We went on Zoom. We did, VCs, shipping companies went online, airlines went online. So now the entire ecosystem in which we operate has changed, which makes it interesting for young people.
You mentioned that you came into the business in 2009.
Yes.
That is when we had seen a lot of ups and downs in the industry, the global recession being
right.
there. So how have you seen the times changing? Because it's been difficult times initially.
So I joined back in 2012. I did about 10 months in 2009, and then I went on to study. When I joined in 2012, it was just post-recession. Yes. And there was, because we were always in the global business, and our biggest markets were Europe, Australia, we were impacted heavily. A lot of our UK-based customers, a lot of our European-based customers, they went bankrupt, and we had, our partners getting sold to multinationals. Our partner in Australia got sold to multinationals. But in a way, it was a blessing in disguise, because we were already about 42 years old as a company, and it was time to reinvent everything. So in the last decade or so, we've kind of transformed ourselves into a very different organization. We wanted to develop our own business. They wanted to focus on India. We started by focusing on India. We went to a new market. We explored Latin America. Today we are a leading forwarder in Latin America. We do continue to handle business in Europe, but I think a shift happened in markets, in commodities, and who controls the business. So, I think if I even go back and speak to people who've been in this industry for long, it's a very cyclic business. They've seen this happen every decade. And then 2012 happened, and now we've had the COVID happen. So we don't know what's going to happen next. Okay. So in order to survive and grow in this industry, you have to adapt, be flexible, adapt, change. And I think logisticians do that very well. Most people are very active and always agile to do something new.
Absolutely.
So that's my experience. I wasn't there during the actual crisis. That time I was still a student.
Okay, so you mentioned about the business being cyclical,
Right.
and it has been, when I have also spoken to a couple of logisticians, they have been saying that okay, this we are used to these kind of ups and downs in the industry, but since the last few years that we are seeing a lot of geopolitical, changes happening, and probably this was not what we had seen earlier.
Correct.
So how is the industry, adopting to that, those changes? How is it adapting to it?
At the end of the day, people find ways to move their cargo, right? So there are new supply chains that are kind of created. A lot of collaboration happens, a lot of knowledge sharing happens, and I think that's the beauty of this industry. I pick up a call and I talk to other business owners, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing? How are you managing?" And what's happened post COVID is that we've seen a lot of cooperation from the customer side and the willingness from the customer side to explore new supply chains.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, if I would go and tell somebody, look, I will take your cargo to Dubai and then move it by road to Jeddah and then send it by sea somewhere else, he's like, pagal ho gaya, don't waste my time. But now people have seen the impact of these uncertainties. So we see collaboration happen at a new level. India as a country, our buying behavior typically has been price. So if you go back and see what we do in our daily life, like you go to buy vegetables, you're negotiating. You go on Swiggy or Zomato, we're looking for the best discount, right? We're not looking for the best food. We're looking for, this guy has a 50% discount, so I order from there. So our buying behavior is price driven. The last 4 years have changed that. We see customers willing to pay a price for a solution, which makes us happier because that's when we can spend our time doing some R&D and providing something to them. I had a recent discussion last week with a customer about AI, and they're like, okay, Rohan, I'm interested. Let me pilot this project with you. Okay. So customers are now willing to spend more. And what has happened is COVID put logistics or supply chain in the spotlight in a boardroom. Before that, the supply chain department in a customer side or exporter importer side was not top priority.
Yes.
You had marketing, finance, sales, and then logistics came at the end. It was a cost center. Okay. But when COVID changed everything, now it became a boardroom discussion. Hence, you see more senior professionals in this industry coming in as directors of supply chain. You see extremely talented people coming in and putting out white papers. There's a lot of research going into this. So boardroom is more interested. So you see more spending. And I think that's why we see more solutions. Otherwise, if it was the same old, you move everything in you do everything, but you get paid $500 for it to ship from A to B, it won't work.
Correct.
So I think that's the change that's happened in the industry, and that's why we're able to adapt. In technology, it's been easier, faster to communicate. We can call people at any point of time. We don't have to wait for emails to go through. So all of that is also definitely added up.
Since we've been talking about COVID, that was the time when the freight rates were skyrocketing.
Correct.
And that's when the industry actually earned. So how has that been? What was the even from the supply chain side or the supply chain executives, how was that period? Was it challenging for you as well?
Definitely very challenging. I clearly remember, I think April 2020 is when we realized what Zoom is. We got a license of Zoom, started doing 9 a.m. meetings with our teams. And, at that time, the discussion was also because at that time we were doing more of ocean. Our business is, I would say, on revenue side, more or less the same, but ocean freight is our core business. And we realized nothing is moving in the port. A very challenging 2-3 years. But it was also the time where we had to step up.
Correct.
Right? So we were able to move very fast. We were able to get online very fast. We were already very tech friendly. So all our teams, we got them laptops. They were able to work from home. We started a small back office in Mumbai, which helped the documentation process. I was personally involved in moving. So we just divided our workforce into different responsibilities. So some of our managers were looking at post-shipment, some did pre-shipment, some did only the customer side. So it was very good teamwork. And I think we did a great job in that period. We were able to add customers, service them, keep them satisfied. And, we just grew a lot. We even opened a branch in COVID,
Oh.
2 branches during COVID. So it was just the need of the hour to have people on the floor in certain cities, and we said, okay, let's start a branch. So I think it was the best time. We got to learn a lot. As executives, we learned so much. It was something incredible. Sure.
You mentioned about cost being one of the factors when it comes to services. That can be, major companies, the conglomerates. They are fine with probably spending more when it comes to when they want services. But how about the MSMEs, because they are the largest exporters that we have, the Indian MSMEs?
I think, actually speaking, the MSMEs have been more less price sensitive because they are typically, again, smaller teams, and they do profitable business with great cash flows. So if you go to smaller cities in India, you go to smaller, when I say smaller cities compared to Bombay, but you go to companies there, they would be mid-size or small size, you'll see that they still run a business the financial acumen there is very sound. They know how to manage their cash flows, they know what is profitable, what's not, and they're very straightforward. They're very clear about the way they work, and they understand that business, you sometimes have extra costs, you sometimes don't have extra costs. What's been missing, I guess why we sometimes say that they're very price sensitive, is because people don't give clarity. Our service providers are not giving them clarity on what are the ifs and buts that can happen in a shipment. So if you can give the customer, the full information, saying that, all right, if this happens, you're going to pay this much, and you should budget this cost, why would anyone not pay you?
Absolutely.
So if they're going to ship, I don't know, 40-50 lakh rupees or 50,000 US in a container, they're not going to worry about giving you $50 more till the time you're clear that there's $50 more to be billed. The problem is people they quote less, and then they end up billing them extra when we start complaining about customers. So I feel MSMEs, I think they do well. I like MSMEs more than the very large ones.
You were talking about collaborations. So how difficult does it become for freight forwarders to communicate with the other counterparts probably, and ensuring that the shipments go safely, because you have sanctions, you have some war happening somewhere?
It's all trial and error. We have to look for the right partner. We always explore, we try to meet them at least on Zoom or in a network meeting. And there's always a partner for everybody. So this is such a large ecosystem. There are so many players in India, so many players in every country. You need to align your interests and your values. So we believe in working with very high integrity level partners, people who are honest, who don't cheat you, who give you clear information, who are transparent, who are reliable. That's the values that we work with. So we look at also value long-term relationships. Sometimes we would pay a little bit extra for long-term relationships because we know they're dependable at the end of the day. So it takes time. If it's a new country, for example, where we've not had a partnership, we would maybe try working with 1-2 companies and then explore, see how they do, rate them, and then finally decide on someone. One thing here is you got to trust.
Correct.
Right? A customer would give me cargo, there's no contract, there's nothing that we do in India. They just give us cargo based on the fact that they find you trustworthy. So a lot of trust goes here, and a lot of communication is involved. That's how you choose a right partner.
Actually, so you mentioned about going into newer markets.
Correct.
After this entire disruptions that are happening, are the companies exploring newer markets than the existing? Because probably some have, there's a downfall in some. Those are challenges that we are seeing. But are you all exploring other markets?
I think absolutely yes. You see a lot of Indian companies going overseas. You see a lot of Indian companies either going, if they're ocean freight forwarders, going into air freight forwarders going into ocean, somebody going into transport. We've seen tremendous amount of companies going into the US as a market. We personally, we focused on Latin America. That's been our core. Currently, we have 3 direct team members working for Clearship in Latin America, 2 in Colombia, 1 in Mexico. We don't have our own offices. They're like representatives helping us build the market. We have 1 person in Malaysia helping us build the market in Southeast Asia. We're setting up our business in Dubai at the moment as we speak. So there's a lot of things happening. And this is only possible because India has such positive energy today. Everybody's talking about growth.
Yeah.
So you go to a customer to talk about maybe an inquiry they sent you, but you will end up discussing about 5 other projects they have in the pipeline. Indian companies are going global. Indian manufacturers are going abroad. So it makes absolute sense for Indian service providers to follow that. So I think you'll continue to see Indian companies become more and more global and go overseas in the next decade or so.
So how are you seeing the Indian growth story?
I'm excited. I'm actually glad I'm here and I'm not in any other country. It's, there's enough to do for everyone. The pie is large enough. Competition is healthy. Markets are very friendly. Government is making policy easy, so we are able to do business better. Banking is easy, so everything here is great. We don't, and I when I say banking is easy, I work in certain countries in Latin America where it's difficult. It's difficult to work with customs. It's difficult to work with, let's say, the local authorities, the rail companies. I think we're very fortunate to be in this country at this time.
Are you seeing international firms, trying to collaborate with the Indian companies to set up their business in India?
You mean logistics companies?
Yes.
I think that phase has passed.
Okay.
Typically how globalization happens is they start with a representative and then they would do maybe a JV or they appoint an agent and then they go for a JV and then they start their own company. So now it's very easy to come to India. We've seen a lot of companies, in fact, move away from their agency setup to set up their own companies. You've seen, and why are they doing that? Because they see that China is not growing anymore and they want to come here.
Correct.
So we see a lot of companies coming in here, and that's actually good for us because Indian companies, us as SMEs, we do spend a lot of time running our business, developing our team, training our team, but then you understand that we have limited resources. So I always give credit to the very large companies because they have great SOPs and they help in skilling our workforce. So, we have a lot of people who are now trained by, let's say, the large IFFs, international forwarders, who then end up taking leadership roles in Indian companies, and they're helping us transform our business.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good thing. If they're coming to India, it's a great thing. There's more jobs created, but it should not be at the expense of, local companies. I think we have enough for everyone.
You mentioned about skilling the
Correct.
people here. How important is that in the current scenario, and why do we lack having skilled workforce in this industry?
I'll ask you a question. When you passed out of university, would you have chosen a logistics company or a transport company as your first job, first preference?
That was not the sector that was exposed to me first
Not
of
really.
all.
So even today, it's not the first
Correct.
preference, right? Why? Because it doesn't pay so well. If you look at someone who goes to marketing, IT, banking, let's say professional services, media, it pays better. A fresher doesn't get paid as much in the logistics industry. So, of course, you're not able to attract, let's say, the large proportion of the graduates. You're then working with people who either come in through some reference
Correct.
or who came in by default. Maybe they did an MBA in supply chain. Not too many people. Yes, there are a lot of kids who do that. And then they come in. So when people are not starting with, you don't really get the best talented individuals initially. Secondly, do we have the time to train? How many companies really have the time to sit down and, do weekly trainings for people? We don't have it. Everybody is busy, everybody is doing their job. So I credit some of these institutions. I think Triple FAI does some courses. We have nominating every year. We try to nominate a bunch of people to do that. There's another academy that has courses online. So we try to do that. It's just that we've not made this as a industry that needs training. But I think eventually you're going to have a lot more people getting trained in tech. And less people trained in logistics, but they would be tech for logistics. Like, so if you go to banking, you have more tech people than accountants sometimes working
Correct.
in the entire system. So that would happen, in my opinion.
Okay. Talking about technology, AI, blockchain, everything is being introduced. People are talking about that. How far has that come into this industry, and how are logisticians even adopting it? To what extent has that awareness been?
I think the awareness is very, very, very minuscule. Nobody is really adapting it, but we have to. I'm personally exploring bunch of tools in AI, and I'm blown away with the capabilities that exist. We've seen tools that would maybe reduce our time to handle a shipment by 10 times. So a lot of the data processing, data entry, document sharing, all of that can be automated. So today what happens is a customer who wants to ship is going to take a container or send cargo, and then they're going to make an invoice in their factory, and that invoice then gets converted to either an airway bill or a bill of lading. That eventually would then convert to them tracking that shipment, and then an invoice, right, for the freight charges. All of these things can be triggered, and we can use AI agents to do it without manual intervention. So it's if you just look at some of these demos and the startups that are moving in this space, it is mind-blowing on what can be done. And I'm actually personally excited because I think India as a country is more tech friendly. We adopt tech faster. So that will give us an upper hand when it comes to working in the global market.
Absolutely. We have seen a lot of free trade agreements that was signed. How that is benefiting, obviously it is benefiting India, but also for the freight forwarders.
So like I said earlier, we see a lot of opportunity. So Australia, for example, is a market that's growing. UK is a market that's growing. We see cargo moving into the Middle East and Dubai. We see Indian companies going there and setting up their own distribution or say becoming an importer themselves. We're also seeing UK companies coming to India. We're seeing vice versa, right? So there's just a lot of activity.
Correct.
And it's good for business. I think all of these changes, they're just pro-business. So the government today is looking at progress, is looking at growth for not just the country, but also helping all industries to grow there. So what we assume will happen is you're going to see a lot of cross-border M&A between India and these countries in the logistics space. So we've already seen a bunch of UK companies come to India. We might see Indian companies go there as well. And you might see the same thing happening in the Middle East and Australia and all other countries where we have a free trade agreement that's going to set up. And hopefully we have a favorable deal from the US and we see more business there as well.
But are we seeing that actually being favorable? Because
customers ship cargo even when the freight touched $15,000. So I think duties and all these tariffs, they're all relative. All that India will look for is that we still have a better deal compared to our competitor, competing manufacturing origins, and so we'll have business to do at the end. So if India is having a better deal compared to other countries, we're still going to export.
Correct.
So consumption will not stop. They're still going to consume, and they're going to consume from the country that's most competitive in pricing. And I think we'll figure it out. I'm sure everybody will figure this out.
All in all, India will stand at
100%.
The other one I wanted to ask you was about marine insurance.
Okay.
So what is the scenario currently? Because I was speaking to some senior logistician, and he mentioned that while there is something happening in the cargo, but ships as such are not getting insured to that extent. What is your take on the entire marine insurance sector?
I think it's come more in the spotlight due to the recent incidents in the Red Sea than the recent cases we had off the coast of Kerala. But it's always been a necessity, right? It was never mandatory. People were maybe avoiding it and thought of it as a cost, or they were ignorant about it. It's just coming in the spotlight today. Of course, there is challenges when you want to get insurance for passing through the Suez Canal. So that is something that I know and I'm aware about. A lot of large companies who are using insurance brokers or insurance companies who are based in Europe or US. They have a head office there. They don't get insured for the Suez Canal. They don't want to take the risk. I think it was always a necessity. It was always important to have insurance, and it's just more in the spotlight today. We had a couple of containers on the ship that caught fire, the Maersk ship, and we'd taken up a decent cover on that from the shipping company. And even though general average was declared, our containers, we were not affected, neither was our client, because we paid something like $25 more just for insurance on a container. So I think it's a necessity. Everybody should definitely be insured. Just like we have health insurance, medical insurance. Insure your cargo, because you're not only insuring liability against the cargo value, but in case there is an incident that affects, let's say, the entire ship, you might have a liability beyond the cargo value, which is what you want to cover.
So are the shippers also doing their part in terms of insuring the cargo, or is the responsibility of the freight forwarder?
So we cover the transportation, any damages that would happen or
during the transit.
During the transit, that is from A to B, that is under the bill of lading. The cargo value has to be insured by the cargo owner. So depending on the Incoterm, either the seller or the buyer, they would insure the cargo. And so sometimes we could provide cargo insurance if the customer is open for it. But most customers in India they have their own insurance, at least to a certain level. So they cover it in certain form or the other. One thing that not everybody does is get credit insurance, which they should. That is an advice I would have for all companies operating in India. Get credit insurance, because then you have a cover also on your money. Even though there's no incident and somebody is defaulting on payments, you can get money as well.
Okay. What is the way forward for Clearship in terms of probably technology, investments?
Good question. I think we are today an asset-light freight forwarder. It's very likely we remain an asset-light freight forwarder for the next, let's say, 5 years, more or less. Our goal is to open or go global. We will have our own offices overseas. Our goal is to provide an all-in solution to customers end to end. Today we use our partners. We'll continue to use our partners in other countries, but we want to maybe bring in one platform where customers can see end-to-end visibilities. Me personally, I envision that the market, the winners in the market in future are going to be integrators and not really people who try to do everything themselves. So let's take the example of a Zomato or a Swiggy or an Amazon. What they do is they only give you information and they give you real-time information. They don't necessarily fulfill it, but they also take accountability for the fulfillment. Okay. What's going to be the future is companies that can be very clear with communication. We can give real-time information on what's happening, and companies that take accountability when things go wrong are the companies that will win, because things are going to go wrong. Absolutely. We can't avoid. We're physically moving stuff, right? If it rains heavily, there's a flood, you can't do anything. Or there's an earthquake in a country and your container is damaged, you can't do anything, right? So how soon do you react and how do you find solutions for customers is what will define if you're winning or losing in the market. And like I said, the buying behavior is changing beyond price. So people with great integration, great communication, timely information sharing would be winning. So for us, we would become global. We'll become more AI powered for sure. I think we're hoping to do this in the next months. In the next few quarters, we should be more AI driven as a company. We're already tech driven, I would say AI driven, and then building in some platforms which allows customers to interact with us easily and more real time. That would be the future for us.
Any new markets that you're looking at targeting right
now? We're setting up Dubai. So we're setting up the Middle East. That's going to be a market that we're looking to build. We're also going to explore maybe Saudi Arabia and other GCC countries. We'll continue to keep our focus on our core markets. Our core markets are North, South America, North, Central and South America, Europe and Australia. So we'll continue to focus there. And in South America and Latin America, we want to maybe in future explore the possibility of expanding our team. not directly opening offices, but keep working with a bigger team and give support in their time zone, etc. So that is something we'll do. So right now the focus would be the Middle East to start with.
Okay. Are you also planning to explore newer avenues for the air freights?
So we do air freight. I personally have not exposed to air freight so much. I spent a decade doing ocean. We'll continue to handle air freight, but it's not like we are going to only sell ocean or only sell air. Customers require both, so we try to give solutions to customers. What our goal is, if a customer spends 100 rupees on logistics, they should spend it and they should pay Clearship, and Clearship should be able to give them services. So we will go beyond doing just today we already handle a lot of cargo. Apart from moving the cargo, we also do packaging, some kind of palletization. So that's where we'll focus. We'll focus on adding value or seeing how we can increase share of wallet for customer. Customer says we want to do air freight, we'll do it. If they say we want to do ocean, we'll do it. At the end, it's a customer focused business, and not like saying I would only do air freight or I would only do ocean or only do trucking, which is why we remain asset light. So we're flexible to pull and push wherever we need.
One advice that you would like to give the next generation, as you have entered into this business.
So I'm not someone who believes in advice. I absolutely am against Gyan. So I think it's a great place to be. There's a lot of opportunity here. But I want people to spend enough time to learn and understand why we do things. I work, our average age in our company is below 35. So a lot of young people in our organization as well. And because of technology, because of the speed at which they operate, they tend to get noticed. They tend to add value directly to the bottom line. And sometimes they're skipping steps. And I think they need to learn the basics, because maybe in 10 years, the basics are going to be more important than how tech friendly you are. Right? So you need to understand why we do things. What are the laws? Why you shouldn't do something? Why do you need a HAS declaration? Please spend your time, invest your time to learn. Most companies want to train you. Companies are willing to invest in your training. So please be open to learning. Another thing I noticed that happened in the younger generation is people are sometimes not putting integrity as the main value. Now, this is a change we see not only in this industry, but overall in the younger generation. Things have to be fast, right? So we take shortcuts. And people took shortcuts back in the day as well. But the people who took shortcuts are no longer around. Right? So if you want to do the long marathon and stay around for a long time, don't take shortcuts. Don't do things that could harm your career. That's something that I would just tell people. But otherwise, no advice. People, let them do what they want to do.
Let's grow together.
Yeah, for sure.
Great, Rohan. Thank you very much for coming to our studio. And it was really an insightful and interesting interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prajakta. Thank you, Logistics Outlook. And pleasure being here.